Bengals draft coming up next, and we have a special guest in Dave Lapham on the Wincinnati podcast.
Yes. Hello, world. We got a special show as always. TJ Houshmandzada, Jimmy Chase, Coach Jimmy Burrow.
How do you balance being a professional athlete and family obligation?
These are top 5 Bengals of all time.
All time?
Yeah. Shock the world.
Welcome to the Wincinnati podcast. I'm your host, Ace Boogie, joined by my co-host, Zim. Zim, what's going on?
Nothing much, man. I'm rocking in the free world. I'm doing my thing. Still repping Who Dey every day of my life. I'm feeling good. Ryan was a little under the weather. I was a little under the weather. I'm feeling a lot better as we're getting close to the draft. Is anybody in your house even thinking about the draft? Are you getting your people prepared? I'm getting my family prepared because they know, like me, I get really loud in the draft with my reactions. I told them this time it's a little different. We're picking at number 31. Are you prepared at your household?
Yes, I'm definitely prepared. My wife was asking me, are you still working on Prime and stuff like that? So, yeah, we're definitely fired up. We're definitely ready. And as we know, as Bengals fans, this is kind of like something that we traditionally are heavy into and look forward to, and especially adding to this Super Bowl roster. So there's a lot to talk about because obviously it's draft week. So we're going to pull in some heavy hitters. Dave Lapham is going to join us to talk the draft. We've got Jackson Carman and all things Bengals, plus Zac Taylor gave T. Higgins update. So we'll discuss that. It isn't as bad as it sounds, but we will tell you about the latest and discuss what it means. And then we're going to get to the part where we're talking about our top 3 edge rushers for Thursday and all of that next. So let's tee it up, Zim. We saw T. Higgins in the sling. A lot of people were freaking out, not knowing what was going on. We got more clarity from Zac Taylor about T. Higgins with this injury. They decided to get it done. What were your thoughts just on the injury in general?
Well, the injury we knew because you remember we saw them around the Jaguars that week, so we knew that he had like the torn labrum or what. Anytime you do anything with that rotator cuff or any in that area around there, they usually label it as a torn labrum. So I don't know exactly at what point they gave it that or whatever, but at that point we knew that it was a bit of an issue. I think he missed the following week or two, and then we had the bye week, right? So I had the same surgery probably about 8 years ago. Every day of my life, it's a thing. Like that shoulder, you got to rehab it properly. You got to do everything, and it doesn't feel that great. You could do everything that you want to do. I don't think it'll hold him back this upcoming season, but it is something that'll be in the back of his mind for sure, and I'm living proof. Like I remember like that first year that I had that surgery or whatever, like that was a thing. Like I didn't want to put my arm back too much because I would hear like this little, you have like a pin here, and a pin here generally. The same doctor that does all the surgeries on the Commanders and the Nationals, he did my surgery. So I had a night, I shout out to Dr. O, but I had a really good surgery. But at the same time, it's something I'm very mindful of today. But a couple months later, I think he'll probably get cleared for everything. So Zach gave him, 2 months?
I think he said he's going to miss most of the offseason stuff. But like you said, one of the things I kind of noticed it too, right? Like he went out early in the season because of it. We saw him, as you said, and we knew that he would be back. But sometimes when he would have drops and stuff, I would be like, guys, you have to remember he had the shoulder injury earlier in the season, and that could be something that, potentially could cause some of those issues, but he still had a strong year, right? You have to remember that he was still a top 10 receiver in the NFL. I think it's better for them to fix it while we have this time, allow him to properly heal, get it cleaned up. And that way, especially with him kind of going into a quote unquote contract year, he gets to get all of that cleaned up and have a full bill of health. So I think it's actually the smart move for them to do. Go ahead and let him heal up now. Obviously, we already know what T. Higgins is capable of. Let him get back with Joe Burrow, with this new offensive line, with our receivers, and be back 100% healthy. So I think it was a smart move for them to make that one. So the other thing that we want to talk about is Zac Taylor and drafting captains. Duke Tobin kind of hit on this a little bit. What are your thoughts on just the whole captain thing? I think his exact quotes were, it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing. Like they look for key traits in guys and they just happen to be captains. But do you think that it's a thing where they are kind of looking out for a exact captain to kind of fit that mold for the Bengals, or is it just the best player?
it can't be just the best player, I think, in a Zac Taylor coach team, right? But I'm gonna flip the script on you. What would your if you could pick 3 captains right now on the spot, no rehearsal? Who would you pick as your 3 captains?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would target guys in the draft that would be captains. I think that they have leadership traits. They can do things. You see what CJ Uzama did for us last year. So for me, I would probably target guys that are captains because that would be guys that would be responsible. Now, if you're talking Bengals captains,
Right.
that would be tough. But I think he was talking about drafting captains as far as
Oh,
like those
okay.
being the kind of guys that they bring
Right.
in.
They want
I
to.
actually had some data on the captains. I don't have it here per se, but there are a lot of captains in this draft, and so I do think that they would look for guys with those characteristics.
Yeah, well, I mean, for sure. I think that those are the type of guys that you're going to get. I think that plays in a lot of factors into maybe they look at Kyer Elam playing against top tier Alabamas of the world, not necessarily being a captain, but how well did this guy play in big games? But I'm asking you straight up right now, if you were to name your Bengals captains, now that CJ Uzamas of the world and all these guys are gone or whatever, who would you name? Joe Burrow, is that one of your captains?
Oh yeah, of course. Joe Burrow is a shoe-in for captain. I think another guy is Joe Mixon. I mean, even before the new regime took over, he was always a guy that kind of got the sidelines and stuff riled up. He was a guy that they leaned on. I think Logan Wilson would be a
Right.
good one as well. He's kind of one of those
Yeah.
leaders on the defense. Trey Hendrickson is a guy that you could throw in that mix.
Trey's,
But
I think Trey's so like he's such a different person though. I don't know if
I
I will
love
make
it
him
though.
the
I love
I
it
do.
though.
I love it too. I love it. I love it. Like he is slowly becoming like not even just. I know he's a crazy sack extraordinaire, but like just the shot of him on the bench as they go into the Super Bowl. They punch the ticket for the Super Bowl and he's just sitting on the bench and he's just taking off the tape. I just get like we got Dave Lapham on today. I just want to ask him like who does Trey Hendrickson play like? Because I mean that's so old school. That's like some like some. I don't know. He probably gonna tell me somebody like, man, yeah, he would just sit on the bench, take his tape off like off his fingers. Trey Hendrickson, that guy.
Definitely. But you just hinted on our special guest. We want to welcome in Dave Lapham to the podcast. Dave, how you doing today?
What up, Ace? What up, Zim? How you guys doing?
Pretty good, man. Glad to be talking with the guru himself, the expert. Anytime you release anything or say anything about the Bengals before the draft, everybody is listening in and locking in because you have an amazing track record. So we thank you for bringing yourself onto the show today. We appreciate that.
I appreciate the invite. Appreciate the opportunity, guys.
Yes, sir. Definitely. So the first thing we'll talk about are what are your thoughts for the Bengals on the first round? Obviously, they went heavy offense, but there's talk about safety. There's talk about 3-tech, edge potentially, corner, obviously. What are your thoughts for the Bengals when it comes to round one?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because there's not even a consensus opinion on who's going to be the first pick in the draft. You know, you're hearing 2 to 4 guys 2 days before the draft, about 50 hours before the draft starts, you're still talking about, is it going to be this guy or going to be that guy? I mean, there's not like a franchise quarterback. There's not like 3 guys that are going to take the top 3 spots in the draft before you even, know what's going to happen before the draft even starts. It's wide open this year, I mean, I've seen mock drafts that have 3 edge rushers going with the top 3 picks in the draft. Seen all different kinds of combinations. So not only that, but each position group, there's debate over who's the number 1 person at each position group. I mean, it's not clear cut. And a quarterback position this year, I mean, if you're in the market or have a big need for a quarterback, this probably isn't the draft for you. I mean, next year's draft is going to be, better for you in that regard. But with that said, I think that this draft fits the Bengals needs pretty well because they're drafting in the back end of the round instead of the top end of the round on an every round basis. And I think from the middle of the first round all the way to the end of the 4th round is the sweet spot of the draft. So I think that there's not a huge fall off. It's not like you fall off a cliff when you're into the end of the first round and into the 2nd and 3rd round. You're still going to get pretty good value. And it wouldn't shock me, guys, if the Bengals trade back. I mean, I think they're sitting there at 31, 32. Detroit's talking about taking a quarterback. I mean, if there's only 2 quarterbacks taken and right, you're getting toward the end of the first round And Detroit said, I've seen mock drafts where Detroit, oh, we're going to take Des Ridder. If Des is sitting there, we're going to take him. Well, what if somebody says, you know what? I need a quarterback too. I got to get up ahead of the Detroit Lions. The Bengals are sitting there at 31. I want to move up in that first round because with my quarterback, I get 5 years in that first contract instead of 4. So I can spread the signing bonus over 5 years, and I make my cap hit less expensive. And I can, fortify my team other ways by, manipulating that cap space. So there's some value there. And the Bengals might be in a position where I want to trade up to 31 and take one of those quarterbacks before the draft ends. There may be quarterbacks taken at 31 and 32 if the Bengals do trade back. And let's just pick the Jets for an example, because the Jets, they've got multiple picks in every round, it seems like. They're one of 8 teams that have 2 picks in the first round. They've also got, the 35th and 38th pick in the second round. And if they say, all right, we don't want to give you our 35th, but we'll give you our 38th. So the Bengals move back 7 spots. And at 31, depending on when the run on these different positions have happened, they may have as many as 5 to 8 players. Still, I feel good about this guy at 31. I feel good about this guy at 31. I'm going to move back and still have a guy that I feel good about. And the formula, by moving back from 31 to 38 that the league uses, they would get a 4th round pick. So now they get the 4th round pick, move back, and they get, the 2nd round pick of the Jets at number 38. And then they get an additional 4th round pick, should be in the top 10 of the 4th round, and in a 5th round pick, top 10 of the 5th round. So now all of a sudden at the sweet spot of the draft, you're loading up with multiple picks. So to me, it wouldn't hurt me to see them trade back out of that 31st pick. They don't have the draft capital to move up, and I don't think there's any real reason to move up. But I think the reason to move up at the end of the first round could be if I can get that rookie quarterback in a 5-year contract instead of a 4-year contract, be more cap friendly. Who knows? But there's going to be a good football player for them to take at 31, guys.
You talk, yeah, and I agree 100%. You talked about the sweet spot being like around that 4th round spot. I guess there's 2 different frames of mind or whatever. You come in the 4th round. I've seen this earlier today. The over or under on the punter, Areza is now in the 4th round. Do you feel like the Bengals, now seeing what they saw from McPherson, is that someone that should be on their radar or will be on their radar? And then on top of that, do you think that 4th round is a sweet spot for maybe wide receiver or tight end for filling out that room?
Yeah, I think any of those are possibilities. I would think that Areza may even move up to the 3rd round. I mean, this guy's he's a threat. I mean, he's a freak, But yeah, 4th round. But I mean, he can hit the long field goal for you as well as flip field position punting the football. I mean, he's a huge weapon. There's no doubt, and he's an automatic touchback on kickoffs. But yeah, I could see that being a 4th round selection potentially. And in my mind, as I was looking through, all right, the Bengals have eight draft picks. What would be a perfect draft for the Cincinnati Bengals? Or I don't know about a perfect draft, but a couple of corners, a safety, a defensive tackle, an edge rush guy, a wide receiver, an offensive lineman or 2, and then I had punter with a question mark. Do you make that move at punter? Who knows? I mean, I think all those discussions will be on the table as those rounds unfold and what's left to you and what's not left to you. It is going to be very interesting to see. You can't have a run on all of them. I mean, you can't have a run on tackles, edge rush guys, corners, wide receivers. If there's not that many picks, I mean, they can't all be
right.
taken in the first round. Something's going to be left for the Cincinnati Bengals, and by what they did in free agency, guys, they put themselves in a situation where they can just sit back and let the board talk to them.
Definitely.
Whenever the run's made, and just make the move accordingly. If it's a corner, jump on a corner. If it's an edge rusher, the run hadn't happened on edge rushers yet. As much as you thought, take that edge rush guy. The guy I really like is Karlaftis. I mean, if George Karlaftis is there from Purdue,
So it seems like Dave just froze for a second. There he is.
Dave, can you hear us? I think it froze up. He just was in the middle of talking about Karlaftis. There you go.
He might have gotten a phone call or something like that. You still there, Dave?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. So you were talking about George Karlaftis.
Yeah,
Yep.
Sorry. I mean, yeah, George Karlaftis. I mean, this guy is a little bit bigger physically than Hendrickson and Hubbard, but he's got that same type of relentless, blue collar
Man,
attitude.
he's strong.
He'd be a perfect fit in that edge rush room.
He is strong.
Booth, yeah, he is. If Booth's there, you got to. I think take a look at him. Booth, this dude in 3 years had one penalty, and he didn't have a touchdown pass thrown against him this year. One penalty in 3 years. Are you kidding me? Elam is another guy out of Florida I like, but in 10 games last year, he had 7 penalties in the form of, defensive holding or pass interference. So he's a little bit sloppier with his hands, he's a little handsy compared to Elam. So, but he's a talent. He's a big body guy. He can play press. He can play off coverage. There's going to be, if one of the big tackles from Georgia for some reason is there at the end of the first round, you got to jump on that. I mean, you just never know. In the draft like this, you never know when the run's going to happen. And I got five guys that if Andrew Booth, if Kair Elam, if George Karlaftis, if Dax Hill is there, those guys. I mean, you got a safety that can play in the slot corner for you as well as safety. That's big. That's big value. So I don't think it's going to be a problem with having a guy that you think has the value at 31. I think it's going to be interesting. Man, how far back could I potentially trade and still have one of those guys on the board? Because I was listening to Bill Polian and Solly on Solomon Wilcox's Sirius XM NFL radio show. And Polian's like, look, let me tell you something. If you're thinking about trading back, you can't have it just be one or two guys, because when I've just targeted one guy and trade back and hope he's there, cross your fingers, 85% of the time, he ain't there. So you have to have multiple guys still on your board that you feel good about taking, and then move back.
So speaking of moving back, the Bengals moved back last year for Jackson Carman. Do you think Jackson Carman is a guy that would cause them, like, would he stop them from taking a guard, or would he stop them from taking a center like a Tyler Linderbaum? What were your thoughts, just I guess, on Jackson Carman and how you think the Bengals see him and expectations for year 2?
Yeah, I think the Bengals have him as a prime candidate for the left guard spot. He's going to be a front runner lining up there, get an initial shot at it. That's basically the only spot open because of what the Bengals have done in free agency. Let's face it, you draft 3 offensive linemen, and you sign 3 offensive linemen in free agency after drafting 3 of them last year in the 2nd, 4th, and 6th round. So you paid a lot of attention to your offensive line. If I'm a defensive coach, I would have no problem as a fan with the Bengals taking Linderbaum. But if I'm a defensive coach, you drafted 3 last year. You went out and you got 3 in free agency. Come on, man. I think I might get up and leave the draft room under protest. It's like, what about the defense over here?
But hold on. Let me hit you. Let me play devil's advocate. Let me just flip this. And we talked about this before the show. All right. So check this. So at the very beginning of this, our whole entire deal in the offseason was to protect Joe Burrow. As we learned in years past, if you have 1 or 2 links that are a little bit weak or something's a little bit in question, a la Michael Jordan or something like that, you can have some other good players on the line. But if that one guy isn't what you need him to be, what good is all that effort if you have, like, arguably a prospect that is head and shoulders above Jackson Carman? And just like last year, Penei Sewell in the Jamar Chase whole thing, Just because you don't take Penei Sewell in the first round doesn't mean that you don't have to address offensive line later on in the draft. So I'm saying the same thing if I came this year.
Well, I'm saying that if I'm a defensive coach, as a former lineman, as a fan of the Bengals, I wouldn't have a problem with them taking Tyler Linderbaum. But if I'm a defensive coach, I'm like, geez, wait a minute now. We've already spent a lot of money. I mean, the 2 years prior to this in free agency, the Bengals spent over $100 million each offseason on the defense, and they drafted offensively. This year, they spent over $100 million in the offense. So the defense is saying, okay, let's draft defense. I mean, let's return the favor. We have to address our defensive needs. But if Linderbaum on their board, if they have Linderbaum rated ahead of any of the corners, any of the edge guys, this guy, man, we have rated 15th. He's here at 31. He's the highest rated prospect that's slid. We're there. I think 4th and 6th picks that they took last year, they're all going to be better players this year than they were last year. All 3 of them, and
I agree.
To me, I've seen centers, and Linderbaum is great. I mean, like I said, the guy finishes. He's a hell of a player. He's got as good a lateral movement as I've seen in a long time. I mean, this guy's feet, he can get down the line of scrimmage laterally. He can get outside of a 3 technique, lined up outside of the outside shoulder of the guard from the center position about as well as anybody. And the thing about, he does have short arms, but he was a very, very excellent wrestler. So he likes guys in the phone booth. He likes tight quarters. He knows how to balance himself. He knows how to get other guys off balance. So his feet compensate, the excellence of his feet compensate for the short arms. And he'll get position on people and then just, be able to do the thing in close quarters that he does. And he finishes blocks. He's a hell of a player. There's no doubt about it. But, would you rather have in today's football,
okay,
the way they throw a base defense, it's not 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers, 4 DBs anymore. It's 4-2-5. Everybody plays multiple receivers. Everybody messes with tempo. Everybody will speed the game up, slow the game down. You can't have enough cover guys, and you also can't have enough pass rushers, because in the fourth quarter, you don't have rotation of pass rushers. Man, if they can't affect the quarterback, you can't cover long enough. There's no way. So the best way to
them in the Super Bowl.
The passing game is to rush the quarterback. So I mean, if I'm sitting there and it's like, all right, do I draft the center or do I draft an edge rusher or a corner that I have rated higher than the center potentially at this point in time of the draft? Everything slipped. You gotta make, like I said, at 31, let your board talk to you, man. Let your board talk to you. The one that, it's like they have 2 boards. They rate the top 100 prospects, and then they have them rated by position, and then they have a need board. So now you're mixing and matching, and it's like, okay, well, how does it shake down with respect to our need? And like Duke said earlier, you don't need to be a football Einstein to realize we have a need at the cornerback position, particularly in today's football, man. Can't have enough cover guys, and you can't have enough good rush guys either. No doubt about it.
Definitely. So you kind of talked about the edge rush position, and you talked about the corners. What about 3 tech and safety, right? Because a lot of people feel like those could be, obviously with 3 tech or possibly the 5 tech, we kind of need someone in that role. What are your thoughts on this class and what the Bengals could do at 3 tech or 5 tech or the safety position?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, with Larry Ogunjobi moving on, at 3 technique is you still need to, if they can, get a body there. I'm not sure you have to do it in the first round. I do, and I've heard you guys talking about the captain situation too, and that's been a big factor. And in my mind, when I was playing and now observing teams, almost you can't have enough personalities for captains either. Every position should have a guy that could be elected captain. That's when you know you have a good football team. I mean, it's like, it's not just one offensive guy, one defensive guy, or two on each side of the football. It's like every single position has somebody that could be nominated. In a perfect world, maybe multiple guys could be nominated to be a captain. But I'll tell you the interesting thing, this Alex Wright, an edge guy that is probably third or fourth round guy, got really long arms, is kind of like trying to block an octopus. The first 3-time captain in school history, 3-time captain. So, I mean, wow. This kid must be an A++ kid. There's no doubt about it. And that's been a big factor in the culture, I think, that they've established in the football team. And these guys are tight. I mean, they're definitely bonded, but I do think there are 3 techniques. It's going to be interesting at the safety position. There are guys like Dax Hill, like we talked about. There are guys like Seen that can play safety, but can also play slot corner.
Would you do a safety? Would you draft safety that early? Would you go say, because I know we're short on your time coming up. Would you go safety 31?
No, I wouldn't. I'd hope that if I go safety at 31, that's almost like, and I'm not going to be able to get anything done with Jesse Bates, man. It's like
right.
That would be almost like
writings on the wall,
like handwritings on the wall, right? So I mean, I think though I shouldn't say no. If there's a safety that has the versatility to play slot corner, like a lot of them do,
Jackson Hill.
Yeah, Dax Hill's a great example of it. I mean, if he's the best guy left,
right.
You'd probably take him. And if you do get a contract done with Jesse, there's nothing wrong with having
right.
a safety that can play slot corner, and can back up Mike Hilton in the slot.
I made the same argument. Somebody was saying we should draft Carl Pickens' son early, and I was like, yeah, I like him a lot, but I think the writing would be on the wall for like someone like a Tyler Boyd, and it kind of sends a message to like the wide receiver group and everything like that. I want to thank you for your time, Dave. I know you got another hit that you got to do coming up really, really close. So I want to be very respectful for your time. We really, really appreciate you coming on the Wincinnati pod today. You got any predictions before you go? Who is your guy at 31 that the Bengals do on Thursday midnight? I guess is the time that goes across the screen.
Yeah, it'll probably be 11:30 to 12 o'clock. It's pure guesswork. I mean, there's so many variables in front of you. I mean, I almost feel like since 2017, Duke Tobin has traded down in the second round 4 out of those 5 drafts. 31 is almost like having a second round pick. The end of the first round is almost like an early. When they decided to stay at 33 and take T. Higgins, they were thinking about trading back. There were some offers there. It's only 2 picks difference. I think there's a very good shot they may trade out of that pick. It's a very good shot, but it wouldn't shock me if they take a corner, best corner available, best edge rush guy available. I mean, who knows how it's going to shake down? But I mean, a lot of the guys we've talked about, Booth, Elam, guys like that. I think a couple of corners that might be there. Like I said, if Karlaftis is there, I mean, I've seen Willis, the quarterback, slotted 2nd pick in the draft, 32nd pick of the draft, and not even in the first round. I've seen the same thing with Karlaftis, top 15, 32nd, out of the first round. I mean, people's opinions are so different. And I don't know if the organizations, the teams are that varied in their opinions too. Guys, this one's going to be very, very fascinating.
Yeah.
Who's coming off the board? You have no idea who's coming off the board 30 picks in front of you. It's crazy.
Definitely. Should be a great one to watch. Once again, Dave, we thank you for tuning into the Wincinnati podcast and joining us. Thank you, Mr. Lapham. We appreciate you.
You got it, guys. Appreciate you guys. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Linderbaum at 31.
Come and get them on our wings. On our wings. Who they gonna beat them on our wings. On
And that was our sponsor of the show, Midwest Best Barbecue and Creamery. Please be sure to stop in, especially before the draft. I think one of our friends of the show, Greg Luther, he already has put his order in for Midwest Best Barbecue. You do the same. Check them out over in Loveland, 669 Justice Court, and tell them that Ace and Zim sent you. So Zim, in legendary fashion, put his Linderbaum flag on the line. Stood tall against
I told Ace early, bro. I told Ace earlier today. Y'all people didn't watch me for a long time. Linderbaum is the Jamar Chase of centers, and Lapham gave y'all a little insight on how he moves vertically, laterally, and all these things. All of that is true, but it's a unicorn situation again. And if the Bengals think, if they outsmart themselves and go into this thinking like how he just was saying, he just said the draft was deep with all these different positions. So that tells me that the one position that isn't deep is this left guard spot. He didn't talk about all the spots that we were missing. Like that to me, that's the only hole on this team. It's not corner.
You know what?
It's not.
You know what, Zim?
It's left guard.
Remember when we had this debate and I was like, know what? I'll keep drafting linemen. Last draft, that's how it's sounding though. Because if you went into free agency and you grabbed like 3 linemen and then you draft another lineman,
it's different, bro. It's different in this regard. You did all that in free agency. If you get Linderbaum, much like I was trying to paint a picture for everyone. I understand what Dave was.
Cam Jurgens in round 2 though. What if you?
He's not. Jurgens in round 2? Boom! Get him out of here. Get him out of here. The only reason I wouldn't even Jurgens round 3, 4, something like that. But this is the thing that I think he's missing. He made a really good point. He said that the defensive coordinator will be like, "Why did y'all just draft another offensive lineman like at the very beginning?" But you know what the defensive coordinator will come back and give me a big hug for? The draft out of 7 picks, I will go defense 4 or 5 minimum. So just because it's just like last year, I don't know if y'all caught that when I was trying to illustrate that. I know he was having a little bit of audio, difficulties, but I was trying to say just because you pick Jamar Chase early on doesn't mean that you neglect the position later on. 31 isn't your only pick. Linderbaum will come in and make it so that your starting 5 is elite and you're not playing no games. What difference does it make if you did all that in free agency and then Carman comes out there and says his back hurts? You're going to be in the same spot you were right now. So why would you not go Linderbaum? If Linderbaum and Karlaftis is on the board, bro, I would riot if they didn't go Linderbaum, bro. I'm telling you.
What if Karlaftis comes out and say they don't take Linderbaum, but Karlaftis comes up and he gets like 10 sacks? You still would hate the pick?
Bro, I can't say I would hate the pick, but that would mean then it goes hand in hand. It's just like last year. It goes hand in hand with, okay, if he gave me 10 sacks, then the person that you're saying that you got a chance to pass on Linderbaum for, you already had a better option. That's my whole argument with the Carman thing is like, if you don't pick Panay, it's because you're sure that your second round person is a starter, not that you're sure that he's better than Panay. So if you pass on Linderbaum, you're sure that Carman is going to play at least 15 out of 17 games, and he's going to start at left guard. No problems. And nobody in the world can sit here with a straight face and tell me that. So why would you go and skip out on that if Linderbaum was in your face? And a lot of people saying that he would be gone. False. I just don't see many teams will look at center like a luxury in the first round. Nobody's drafting a center right there. I think Linderbaum's going to be there 31, and it will be a big mistake for them not to pick him. He shores up and he finalizes the project. You then go round 2 through 7, predominantly defense. Go take 2 strikes at Karlaftis in the 3rd, the 4th, like whatever you want to do. You go defense heavy after that. The world is yours.
So speaking of defense and speaking of edge rushers specifically, you got your top 3 edge rushers for the Bengals as far as fits. What would those be?
My 3, I just fit wise, not who I think would be. I just think Drake Jackson. We talked with Steven Radisovich. He mentioned Drake Jackson in that. I actually watched a couple of Drake Jackson games. I was watching the wide receiver Drake London a little bit one day too, and Drake Jackson came up. George Karlaftis 100% fooled me from the very beginning. His highlights aren't like jarring with all these spin moves and all these different things like that, but he's super, super strong. And I don't know if y'all caught that in the interview. The audio, I think, was messing up a little bit on somebody's end. And so whatever happened, I was trying to say that Karlaftis pushes the pocket and he's super, super strong. And his first step off the ball is really good. Mafe in the second, I think, would be a slam dunk as well, too. I don't know if he'll be there, but I just think that those are the three that fit currently like what they like to do with this 3-4 hybrid.
Yeah, for me, just my top 3 edge rush fits. I'm not sure if my last guy is a fit, but I would say Logan Hall, Drake Jackson, Ojabo. He's a little bit outside of what they typically look for, but I think that he could kind of fit that mold. He's a little bit more similar to kind of that Carl Lawson, Joseph Osai size, a little bit lighter than those guys. But those would be like my 3 edge rushers. Logan Hall, obviously, you could play him at the outside. You could play him at 3-tech potentially. So I think those would be my 3 guys. Drake Jackson, I'm a huge fan of. Like you said, it's funny because Drake Jackson, when we were in the space of kind of early getting into the draft, he was one of the first players I had actually watched, which I kind of drug my feet with that. But as soon as I cut the tape on with him, he was extremely impressive. So Zim, you kind of went out.
You did a cut their table on your YouTube.
Yeah, I did some with Drake Jackson
on
on some of the edge rushers. I actually did one on Mafe as well. But Zim, you kind of went out there today and talked a little bit about Bengals versus Chargers 2021. So before we wrap up, I just want to touch base and hear from you your thoughts on Bengals versus Chargers.
I think as Bengals fans, we got to be mindful and give respect to opponents that like I had a good thought earlier today that I thought was really kind of funny about the Chargers game. If you talk to a Chargers fan, they'll probably tell you about how they whooped the Bengals or something like that. I rewatched that game again. I mean, we all kind of knew this, but bro, do you know in that game? I remember Dan Orlovsky was reviewing the game, and he was on, and the Bengals had just lost, and he came on there and said Joe Burrow played way better than Herbert in this game. And everybody on the panel, because they didn't watch the game, was like, what? He was like, bro, the throws, the decision-making, everything he was doing is amazing in that game. I rewatched that. Do you know how many jump ball, like just 50-50, Herbert just bombs it down the field? Do you know how many times he did that in that game?
How many times did he do it?
7 times. And out of 7 times, I'm talking about just bombing 50-yard throws down the field. Like not even offense, just move around, improvise. Not to take away anything. The Chargers won the game. But just, I don't know if this is a testament to how trash their offensive coordinator is or whatever. Scrambling around, throw the ball up, 50-50 ball. He successfully completed 4 of them. But just let me walk you through the game really quick. This will only take 10 seconds. We start off the game, 50-yard kickoff return. He has a short field. He throws a jump ball, gets that one, boom, but then he gets a wide open Keenan Allen. They score the first touchdown. Come back, Joe Burrow gets a strip sack, fumble. They get the ball back, another short field. He then kicks a field goal, I think, on that drive. Then Bengals come back. This is the drive now. Jamar Chase, I'm just trying to remember. I might be a little bit out of the order. Jamar Chase has a go ball, beats the dude by 5-10 yards. He bumbles the football. He would have scored a touchdown. It would have been 9-7. He bumbles and instead gives the ball back to the Chargers. Chargers throw another deep ball, just bomb the ball down the field, catch the ball, boom, boom, boom. So all this happens, right? Then the main thing, the thing that I want to tell you about this game that's so important for this rivalry that I think is to beat. Because Herbert, to me, I know people talk about Josh Allen and all that. I've been on record. I think that Herbert is the biggest threat. The biggest takeaway that I found from this game is when everything was going right, Herbert was on point. But when Joe Burrow started putting that pressure on him, much like Pat Mahomes, the game looked so much like Pat Mahomes. That was my takeaway from the game, is that the defense came in and started balling out in this game. We hadn't even got to halftime. They started putting immense pressure on him. Pressure. Joe Burrow on the other side starts willing and dealing coming back. Scored 24-22. Would have been 24-24, but Bengals had a failed missed 2-point conversion where they just decided to run to what side? Crazy. Right guard. Miss a 2-point conversion. Why you made your key block right guard, just like the Super Bowl. Craziness. Saw that firsthand again today. So they missed that. Boom. They don't get the 2-point conversion. Herbert still folding. He's rattled. Like this whole time to get back, to let them come back 24 points, he's rattled when it mattered the most. The things that we see Joe Burrow doing, he didn't do well. So then Bengals get the ball after Herbert gets sacked again. He does more jump balls, except Eli Apple breaks it up this time. Then Bengals get the ball. They drive all the way down the field. Bengals now have a 58% chance of winning. They're about to win the game. Joe Mixon fumbles the football, and then the rest is history. But the biggest takeaway from that game is when it mattered the most, what was Herbert doing? And I remember that Joe Burrow did everything in his power to will his team back in that game. So if somebody does talk to you about the Bengals getting blown out, the only real blowout was really the Browns game. But aside from that, I like what I saw from that game, rewatching it, and some of the coaching mistakes on why I believe the Bengals won the Super Bowl reared their head in that game, and it wasn't the offensive line.
All right, so we will be doing something for the draft on social media, so please be sure to follow us on social media at Zimhude, at New Stripe City, and at the Wincinnati Pod on Twitter. And also be sure that you're subscribed and turn those alerts on, because the Wincinnati Podcast comes to you guys every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. So we will be back next week at our regular time. But thank you guys for listening to the Wincinnati Podcast.
Yes, sir. Hello, world. We got a special show as always. TJ Houshmandzada, Jimmy Chase, Coach Jimmy Burrow.
Time to be a Bengals
How do you
fan.
balance being a professional athlete and family obligation? These are top 5 Bengals of all time.
All time? Yeah. Shock the world.